Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we're actually going to be shifting gears a little bit and talking about the national championship where Michigan defeated Washington with a final score of 34-13. And I wanted to dive into a little bit today of how this may affect the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What players from this national championship may the Bucs be more interested in based on how they played in the national championship and really just the college football playoffs as a whole? Which players may they lose a little bit of interest in? I'm going to talk about all of that in this video today, so hopefully you guys enjoy. Let's go ahead and get started with Washington. Firstly, Michael Penix Jr. I believe he is the 30th ranked player on Pro Football Focus's big board, and he is a guy that a lot of Bucs fans have been interested in throughout the process of this season, and the group of people who want the Buccaneers to draft a quarterback have all really, for the most part, dialed in on Michael Penix Jr., and he did not have a great showing versus the Michigan Wolverines. He had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 51 passes. One thing that I will say has been really interesting for Penix this year has been his ability to just be super duper accurate with the football. He's from Tampa, Florida, so that's just actually pretty cool. Had a fantastic year this year with 36 touchdowns and 11 interceptions with 4,903 passing yards. Versus Texas, he was absolutely amazing. He did a fantastic job, but things took a little bit of a step back. Maybe a little bit of that heat cooled off a little bit versus Michigan, where really the Washington offense as a whole just did not have an answer for that Michigan defense. Now, how could this benefit the Bucs? Well, if you are in the market for the Buccaneers wanting to take a quarterback, does this type of showing maybe have Michael Penix fall a little bit to pick 19 for the Bucs? It might be possible. Obviously, one game isn't everything, but this is the biggest stage of them all for college football, and Michael Penix was already in first-round consideration, not just for the Bucs, but just for the NFL in general, so this could have a bit of an effect on it. Obviously, you have the Senior Bowl, the Combine, and all those different types of things that are going to happen, and Penix could very well raise that stock to even greater heights than what we've already seen, but it is going to be interesting. Dillon Johnson is an interesting running back in this mix for Washington. I don't necessarily know if the fit is there for Tampa Bay, considering you have Rachaad White in there, you have Chase Edmonds, who maybe the Bucs will re-sign, but if they don't, you may need a backup running back. Maybe a guy like Dillon Johnson could be that guy. He is 6 foot, 218 pounds, had a pretty good year overall this year, 1,195 rushing yards and 190 receiving yards and 16 rushing touchdowns. So he may be an option for the Bucs at backup running back, maybe somebody to monitor going forward, although he didn't get a ton of work in the national championship game because mainly Washington had to throw the football a whole heck of a lot. Rome Rome is a wide receiver for Washington. He is one of the top wide receiver prospects in this upcoming NFL draft. I believe he is, if I can find him on here, I believe he's in the top 15 in terms of the Pro Football Focus player rankings. Let me go ahead and see if I can find him. He is number 10. So don't necessarily know if he's going to be a guy who's going to be available for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I did just want to mention him. He has had a fantastic year. Michael Penix throwing him the football worked out really well this year to the tune of 1,640 receiving yards and 13 receiving touchdowns. Another guy I want to talk about, though, is on the defensive side of the football, and that is Braylon Trice. Now, I know some people may be a bit wary of Washington defenders. I mean, obviously, the Bucs are kind of one for two here. You have Jotron Shawinko, where the jury's still out on him, but then you had Vita Vea, where, hey, that went fantastic. Braylon Trice is a guy that definitely could be in the mix for the Bucs. Where is he in terms of his overall rankings? I cannot remember off the top of my head. He's number 17, so maybe in play there for the Bucs first round pick. 6'4", 274 pounds. Great size for an edge defender, in my opinion. He finished this year with 7 sacks. Last year, he had 10. Seems like he could be a pretty efficient pass rusher, could be a guy in the mix. I know it's a very small sample size, but I liked what he did against Texas in their original college football matchup here in the first round, and then in the second round against Michigan. Braylon Trice didn't do a lot, 3 total tackles on the game, but is still interesting nonetheless, in my opinion. And aside from that, folks, that's really it in terms of a lot of people that I could see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers interested in, maybe in the earlier rounds on the Washington side. If you guys have somebody else from Washington who I might not be thinking of, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But to go over to Michigan, JJ McCarthy had a rough game also. I mean, 10 for 18, 140 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. This is another guy that has been rumored, or I guess I should say linked to being a first-round quarterback this year. He had, let's see, 2,991 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, and 4 picks. Hasn't really had to pass the football a lot in his career. That is because you have running backs like Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards at the helm, much like in the case of a guy like Dylan Johnson. Those guys may be in play for the Bucs. I really, really like Blake Corum, 5'8", 213. Really strong runner, right? Very, very strong runner. 27 touchdowns this past year, 18 the year before. I don't necessarily know if he's going to be in play for the Bucs though, especially as a backup running back. Maybe you look at a guy like Donovan Edwards as a possibility. He's 6'1", 210. He's also been a guy who's been able to get the ball rolling. And really, again, going back to, I say both those guys because J.J. McCarthy doesn't need to throw the football a lot, right? Whenever you have Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards in there at running back, whenever you're running for 303 yards on 38 carries, yeah, it's fine. And McCarthy can do some stuff with his legs that is good. He's definitely a mobile quarterback, in my opinion. Doesn't necessarily scream as a guy who is somebody that I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be interested in the first round. I could be wrong. I mean, you know, I think that if it was between Michael Penix or J.J. McCarthy, I think they would probably pick Michael Penix. But if Michael Penix is gone, if you do want the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go for a quarterback, it may be likely that J.J. McCarthy is the most realistic option there for guys who would be available later in the first round. I also want to talk about some other guys here. I'm looking up, I went to search for Michigan here. Chris Jenkins is another guy who is interesting. One takeaway I had from these playoffs, these college football playoffs, and really throughout the whole year, is that Michigan has a really good defense, right? And Chris Jenkins didn't do a lot. He had 2 total tackles on the year, but he could also be somebody who's an option for the Bucs. 6'3", 305 pounds, maybe in the first round, maybe in the second round. If he drops to the second round, he's a big guy, right? And the Buccaneers, you know, simple as this, they need some help along the defensive line. Yes, they have Kalijah Kancey. Yes, they have Vita Vea. You could always use more help. What's going on at that other defensive end spot? What's going on in some of your backup spots? You need strong rotations in your front seven. I think Chris Jenkins could be a guy to consider there. Again, big-bodied defensive lineman type of guy. We will see. Rod Moore is another interesting guy. He apparently, he missed some time due to an undisclosed injury in 2023. I don't remember if he played in this game. He did. He could be a guy that is maybe considered. 6 foot tall, 198 pounds. He finished the year with 38 total tackles, 4 interceptions last year, 2 interceptions this year. The Bucs do need some help at safety, folks. They do. They do need some help at safety. Ryan Neal's scheduled to be a free agent. Antoine Winfield Jr. is scheduled to be a free agent as well, though the expectation is that he is going to be brought back. The Bucs could look for a guy like Rod Moore at safety. I would say in the second round as a possibility for somebody who can really go out there and make an immediate impact, be a guy that you could possibly see as a potential starter on this football team. So we're going to have to wait and see on that as well. Finally, just to kind of gloss over the Pro Football Focus rankings here, you have Jalen Polk in there. You have obviously Michael Penix. You have Troy Fautanu. This is why I hate draft season sometimes, because names are hard. But I think whenever you do look at some of those names that the Bucs could be interested in, I don't really know if Troy Fautanu is going to be in there. Maybe Jalen Polk could be in there. Why not, right? The Buccaneers could use a third wide receiver. Yes, you have Trey Palmer there. To me, right now, he seems like a number 4 wide receiver going forward as opposed to a number 3, but you never know. I would say the 2 quarterbacks are interesting. The running backs are interesting, especially in the case, I don't think Blake Corum would be there for the Bucs. Keep an eye on Donovan Edwards. Keep an eye on Dylan Johnson. Also, because it's going to be an option, folks. You never know. Penix and J.J. McCarthy, I think, are both in play for the Bucs this upcoming draft, unless the Bucs really, really prove that they're committed to Baker and give him like a 3-year deal, something like that, then I would say they're probably not drafting a quarterback. Also, there's a couple of defenders I like in this one. You have Rod Moore at safety. That fits a need for the Bucs. You have Chris Jenkins in there. That is a bit of a need for the Bucs as well. And then for Washington, in my opinion, the top guy to pay attention to is Braylon Trice, the edge defender from Washington. He is kind of coming out of the national championship, coming out of this college football playoffs. He's the top guy that I would say, hey, maybe raise his stock a little bit. Maybe he's a guy that can make some noise and maybe be an option for the Bucs. Aside from that, the quarterbacks didn't do a lot in this game. The running backs were overall impressive, but again, not necessarily a need for the Bucs. And then also maybe there's some wide receivers in that mix also. But what do you guys think about this? What do you think about the prospects that were in the national championship, and which ones do you want the Bucs to be interested in? If you want them to take a quarterback, is it Michael Penix? Is it JJ McCarthy? If it's a running back, do you like Dylan Johnson? Do you like Blake Corum? Do you like Donovan Edwards? Do you like Braylon Trice or some of the other defenders that I mentioned? Maybe you like Rod Moore, maybe you like Chris Jenkins. Let me know your thoughts and opinions. But guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. As always, guys, I will see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.